live in peace. We shall live in peace someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall live on.
The All Saints Church, established in the year 1869, was founded by a prominent European missionary, Reverend Samuel Thomas Pettigrew. It is one of the city's iconic and picturesque heritage sites, all in the heart of Bangalore. The church was primarily established to cater to the retired and junior European soldiers and their families, who could not be otherwise accommodated in the already overcrowded St. Mark's Church. And unlike other cantonment churches, All Saints Church was built entirely of donations from the public. Robert Fellows Chisholm, a celebrated British architect, laid down the plans of our church. He was the pioneer of the so-called Indo-Saracenic style and, to his credit, designed several iconic buildings across the country. All Saints Church is clearly the only Chisholm-designed building in Bangalore, which iconically portrays the early part of the Chisholm oeuvre, when he was known to favor the Gothic revival style, and hence the church was designed to sport a Latin cross plan with a high nave and multiple transepts. Among its many features are the steeply sloping double-tiled roof and ceiling tiles, and of course the rubble masonry walls with ash and lime used as a binder. On the inside, it comprises of open iron and wooden arched scissor trusses, which spring out from a height of just 7 feet. Outside, the church is encompassed by a garden with over 200 mature trees in our very compound. Some of these trees have been predated to the church building itself. All this engendering the church its unfamished beauty and grandeur, with the trees' vast canopies stretching over the horizon. And since the church building holds only about 250 to 300 members, the spillover is accommodated on the lawn under the vast canopy of the age-old mighty trees. To add to this, we have almost 30 species of birds that use the canopies as their home, including the very rare paradise flycatcher. Together, providing a mini ecosystem in itself, that is not only protecting the age-old church from the harmful elements, but also acts as a natural air scrubber or a carbon sink. Additionally, since our congregation's strength is over 700, we depend on the trees for our shelter, and is by itself a mere extension of the church, and therefore be called as our sacred grove. The church is also connected with an educational institution. The Cathedral School, which was also founded by Reverend Samuel Thomas Pettigrew, uses the church as a chapel for its students, be it boarders or day scholars, and of course the staff themselves. Hence, apart from a score of members and their ancestors having vivid memories in All Saints Church, there have been more than 150 batches of students of the Cathedral School who have used this church for their sacramental needs. Coincidentally, we are to celebrate the church's 150th anniversary, which may very well be its last. The BMRCL wants to acquire close to 41,000 square feet of land inside the church premises. That is, after already acquiring about 38,000 square feet of prime commercial real estate adjacent to the church, and in the process has already displaced iconic commercial establishments like Hotel Forms, Fatima Bakery, etc. While the fact of the matter is that the original plan, according to BMRCL's own detailed project report, otherwise known as the DPR, clearly describes the station line to pass through the middle portion of the Hosur Road, and the station is described to be in the middle and left-hand side of the Hosur Road, which clearly means BMRCL's action to come inside the church premises is flawed, and the land they acquired outside the church, measuring to about 38,000 square feet, is completely unfounded. Despite this, we have not objected to the BMRCL's unwarranted claim outside the church, but we are only objecting to their entry inside the church compound for their project. What is more interesting is that the whole metro project itself is illegal for want of approvals and adherence to law. subjectively to the Karnataka Town and Country Planning Act of 1976 and 1977 and many others. Apart from this, there have been a lot of discrepancies with the land use plan. It is because of this that the congregation of the church took on itself the burden of saving our sacred grove and our sacred house of worship. We started our protests on the 21st of May 2019. Silent and peaceful in nature, we have been protesting against the abuse of power and authority by the BMRCL in a blatant and irresponsible leap into our compound, which can endanger not only our sacred grove but also our church itself, and thereby endangering our right to pray. We need to be all the more concerned about the turmoil hundreds of residents are going through after the failed attempt by the Kolkata Metro Rail Corporation in approximating the extent of damages that the TBM would cause, which resulted in many buildings being gravely affected. If recently constructed buildings could suffer such damage, how would a 150-year-old building survive? We are not against development. We too suffer from the same traffic woes as everyone else in the city. We need a solution, but not at the cost of our beloved church, especially when there are so many alternatives. And the church is being targeted rather carelessly because it seems convenient for the BMRCL. We have stood steadfast for over 100 days by means of silent protests in and around the church. But for some reason, the BMRCL wants to turn a blind eye. Originally, the BMRCL wanted the land inside the church campus temporarily, which implied that they would use our sacred grove to dump their heavy equipment after slashing down all the trees. If that wasn't enough, they also wanted to cut open the land to a depth of 20 to 25 meters for their station box. No doubt they said they would return the land, but it would never be the same again. With a few feet of topsoil, we won't be able to plant any more trees. Just barren, open land. All this provided the building itself survives the abuse. It is important to note that in the last 150 years, we could have at any point expanded the seating capacity of the church. We haven't, fearing the destruction of our sacred grove. And after all this debacle, we won't even be able to expand the church, let alone construct another building. The concept of temporarily occupying the land only to permanently occupy the subterranean level is a complete sham and deceit on the part of the BMRCL. We don't even want to begin with the finances involved in permanently acquiring the subterranean level. And because of these risks and other issues involved, the pastor-head committee passed a resolution to unanimously not part with the land inside the compound. It was after this that the BMRCL conveniently began their arm-twisting tactics, stating that they would acquire the land permanently if not given temporarily. Ironically, the whole essence of the bilateral agreement was lost when we were strong-armed. Since we were resolute about our decision, the BMRCL sent a notice via the KIADB to permanently acquire the land. And as the law of the land dictates, we were given an opportunity by the KIADB to submit our objections, to which we as a congregation filed a rather strong objection. As we still await the decision of the KIADB after the objections were filed, which otherwise should have taken a couple of days, the BMRCL approached us and the KCD with yet another proposition. A common permanent acquisition of 2,500 square feet and about 13,000 square feet of temporary acquisition, or 7,000 square feet of permanent acquisition, which means the total land that would still be affected would either be 10,000 square feet or 15,000 square feet. The land in question is still in close proximity to the church building. While we were given time to analyze the options, the KIADB and the BMRCL approached and marked the entire 41,000 square feet yet again, like as though the meeting with the BMRCL MD and his assurance meant nothing. As discussed earlier, the church was built on a budget with the donations collected from the public at that time, and hence, it is not built to withstand the harsh pressure of urbanization and development. Bangalore is situated on a plateau, which means there are many air pockets, rocks and boulders, water streams and aquifers underneath. And there is no real way to estimate the geology underneath until excavated. The extent of damage to the church building may be as little as a few cracks, or tiles falling off the sloping roofs, or the entire structure caving in. The BMRCL's officials may come and go, but we as a congregation will have to live with the damages forever. All this especially when it can be avoided with just simple design changes. They say necessity is the mother of all inventions, and such calamities have been avoided in the past. The Delhi Ashram station is considered to be an engineering marvel because the Delhi Metro Rail engineers designed a station to fit the constraints and limitations. Isn't it in an engineer's job description to find a solution to the problem statement? Rather than changing the scope of the problem itself or limiting it to fit to a pre-existing notion or solution. All we ask the BMRCL is to reconsider its plans and let our church go.